Hey everybody, another GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Anthems of War from Sentient Robot, a self-published indie fantasy skirmish game that was kindly handed to me at HalCon this year, and I've just now had the chance to get here on the review table after giving it a thorough read. So what is this? This is a design your own, but also be given some sort of like guidelines to play Fantasy Skirmish set for any range of models. For you to either play head-to-head games or have some adventures. It includes a bunch of other assets too that was given to me, which were really cool. So like this little like measuring gauge that's like a sword, the spell blast template, it's like a force push kind of thing for 1-inch, 2-inch, and 3-inch blasts, and uses all D20s. So handily enough, all of the assets here to play it all at once. It is in lovely full color and printed on a wonderful sort of like, I don't know, it's almost like a, it feels fancy. It feels like a vellum-y sort of like thing, but self-published, and all the work having been done by Ryan here, basically with a full credit to notes in the back as well with like inspiration. So Ryan Dunfee, the author, did like the work on this and did a ton of like sort of collaboration as well with artists, photographers, and copy editor too. So what do we got? Well, we've got sort of a skirmish size head-to-head. You're going to need probably like 15 to 20 models aside, although there's rules for just creating heroes and having hero adventures. There is sort of a universe designed for Anthems of War as well, and some world building done. But for the most part, it just dives in and says, hey, it's a fantasy world. If you like old style tabletop RPGs and want to make cool characters to lead little warbands and fight games, that's why I wrote this game, and that's what it's for. So you know, rulebook, some D20s, tape measure, some measuring sticks, miniatures, tokens of a few shapes and sizes, between 2x2 and 3x3 play area, so a 2-foot or 3-foot play area, and enough terrain to fill about 25 or 50% of it. You want some miniatures and characters. It uses 15 to 28 mil miniatures. We recommend that both players use the same scale, but that's about it. And you get some references to miniatures and characters. They're basically used interchangeably. You can play in centimeters, but they play in inches, and then filling up a nice, cool, thematically appropriate set of terrain. Use some examples here. It's just as valid, basically, to play with these beautifully painted miniatures as it is to play with some like VHS tapes stacked together with wooden blocks and cardboard cutouts. And I love that. I love that picture's included in here, because I think that no matter what your sort of like experience level, you can definitely throw down some cool fantasy adventures on the table. Measurements, closest to closest, obviously. Model facing, divide your character's base in half. The front 180 is what you can see. Model size and basing, use roughly the right size base for your miniatures, what that boils down to. Turns and rounds. Turns is what a player is doing. Rounds is when both players have done. And then line of sight and awareness. In most cases, characters can react if they're aware. If at any point a model can draw a line of sight from one point of a character to another point of a character in its front arc without being fully obstructed, then they are aware of each other. Characters can also use their other senses to be alert. Each character has a 3-inch sphere of awareness around them. If an enemy model moves within that sphere, even if their base just barely passes through it, then they can make reactions. So basically you have like a zone of control, kind of like an infinity, but it's only 3 inches. Rolls, there's two kinds of rolls, opposed rolls and unopposed rolls. Sounds familiar. An opposed roll is between two models. Both models then roll their dice and either subtract any values based on it. The players usually have to meet or set a set value, usually 12, so it's like a TN of 12 as a base value. To have the rolls count as a success. Successful rolls for both sides cancel each other out, but they may be special rules associated with each roll, so they can cancel out a success. Does nothing to necessarily mean that nothing happens. So sometimes you roll a bunch of dice trying to hit a target number, adding certain bonuses and stuff like that, and every success you get cancels one of your opponents, and then you're looking for net successes. Unopposed rolls, you try to beat a value with whatever your number of dice is. Orders. In Anthems of War, orders are what you use to control the characters in your army. Most characters generate orders at the beginning of your turn, and those go into an order pool. Hey, I like that. There's a reason why I got excited about this indie game when I started reading it. There's two main types of orders, regular orders and instinct orders. The majority of your forces will use regular orders. Instinct orders are generated by characters that are either mindless, too stubborn, or not well trained, and they're attached to them. Instinct orders don't go in the order pool and can only be spent on whoever generates them. And then actions. Whenever you spend an order on a character to grant 2 actions, a move action and a standard action, you can also cancel your move action to perform a long action. Long actions, they're like double moves and jumps and things that take a long order. And then extended actions might require more than a single order to perform. It could be a long thing, like you're trying to like raid something or get through a lock or perform a ritual or something like that. And you might have to get a certain number of successes towards getting it done. So if you start, you make your check against it, you get 3 successes. You might need 10 overall over the course of multiple actions to do it. And then special abilities and skills can affect these things. Reactions are moves that characters can make to disrupt their enemies, like a counterattack and a melee, a counter spell to a casting, stuff like that. And then quick start rules. So the stat block, you've got your move, how far you go in inches, your physical, or your physique, sorry, which governs melee combat and your general like toughness, your dexterity, which is how agile you are, and it's used for things like range combat or moving stealthily, and then your constitution, which is how much damage point you can take before you're removed and succumb. Your mind is your mental abilities, and then on top of that, you can have your strength, which is how strong your weapon is. That's your stat for your weapon. And it's speed, which is how swift it is in battle. For every point of speed you have, you roll a dice when you're attacking, and for every point of strength you have, it's the value you have to roll to avoid damage if you actually connect. So there you go. So that's going to be the sort of like core stat line. Then you can also have traits. You can also have skills, and of course your equipment adds on top of that. So skills, movement, your basic move your inches, impassable terrain, low walls, double move, things that basically, you can do extra stuff, like having your movement rate or not allowing you to go through it, you have to move around it. So pretty common core mechanics. Dodging can be done either as a move action or as a reaction when not in melee combat. When you declare a dodge, roll a d20 and add your dex score. And if you beat a 12, you dodge successfully. If done as part of an opposed roll, it cancels out all incoming attacks from a single source. Sound familiar? If multiple enemies attempt to attack a character dodging during an order and the dodge is successful, choose one enemy attack to cancel out. All the other attacks have their rolls reduced by 2, but are not canceled out completely. So dodging is a good way of, like, if you're getting shot by multiple archers or something like that, you'll cancel the one big hit, and then it puts a penalty on all the other ones coming at you. A crit success on a dodge causes all the reactions to miss if you get a natural 20. So there's fumbles and crits in this as well. A character that dodges can move half their move distance. So I love this because there's a bunch of stuff taken basically from Infinity and made into a fantasy game here. Just concept-wise, it's not taken whole because you're not trying to roll under a stat. You're trying to hit a target number with bonuses. And there's multiple dice involved. So it's mechanically different, but the two-part order structure feels very similar, and I like the fact that it takes one of my favorite sort of like act-react core mechanics and puts it into a fantasy game. Then melee attacks. When a character performs a melee attack action, the player may choose to roll any number of dice up to their weapon's speed, but each one on top of the first puts a -2 to your rolls. So if you try to hit a 12 and your speed is 3, the first one, if you just rolled a single dice with your speed 3 weapon, you'd get a normal roll with whatever your bonuses are. If you try and roll 2 dice, you're at -2. If you try and roll 3 dice, you're at -4. So it becomes more likely you get a success, but less likely you get multiple successes because you're spamming more dice. You can also attack and push or attack and retreat as long actions. Attack and sidesteps. There's different styles of attacks you can do, which I think is cool, or just block. So when you enter into that attack action, you have all these options to do it. Attack from behind or disengage. And then same with ranged attacks. You can do an aimed shot as well. You have injury and death, so injury and armor checks, and then death if you go to 0 constitution. And then putting it all together, you got a basic starter scenario here. So turn structure, the start phase is where you generate your orders as well as end any effects which end at the beginning of the player's turn. Count all their characters with the regular trait and set aside an order for each. If any character has used a double move long action on your previous turn, you may now remove that token, marking them as running. Characters with the instinct trait or any special rules generate a token that's put next to them. And then action phase, spend orders to move and perform actions with your characters. And then end phase, this occurs when either a player has finished spending all their orders, they don't want to do anymore. And everyone's a character. So even if you have like 12 models aside, and I was thinking actually this would be a fun game for me and Chris to play with our old school fantasy miniature collections or like confrontation miniatures. I feel like this would be actually a lot of fun to play with confrontation miniatures as just like an excuse to paint like an old model line we hadn't painted, or even just to paint a bunch of like Reaper minis for making up characters. You can play squads, so you can expand into squads and stuff as well. There's additional expanded combat rules for like pushing characters. it gets very RPG-y if you want it to, but you can also just play it in that core mechanic of like strike, dodge. All things like adding in spellcasting, so using your spellcasting rules, and then different traits and what they cost in points. So how to build a character. Building a character. And this is where you start like building out what the point costs for things are. Armies and point costs. Scenarios can give you a point cost. Each scenario will lay out a maximum number of points you can spend on your characters. While you can spend less than that, you can't exceed it. So for instance, when you come to like the scenarios later on, it'll say how you want to set up and how many points you want to play. All right, your scenarios in here. And a standard set of victory points. Looking for the goal setup. It says, it should say in here, I remember where it said it, but I can't find it. Maybe it was here in the rules for stat blocks. Elven Kingdoms, here we go, sample characters. And stat blocks. These are kind of like pre-generated army lists. Maybe there isn't like a recommended one. From looking at the actual point values, I'd like to say it says 300, 400 points is probably about right. It uses about a Lord of the Rings kind of like level of point values. It's like 300 to 400 points is probably a good starting stat block. You have to pick an army commander if you're playing with an army, and then you start building your character point costs. So here we look at a basic soldier from our first game with a few small exceptions. He's 32 for his overall cost. Next, naming the characters their point cost in order to keep games of Anthem of War, no matter the composition of the opposing armies. Each character has a point cost. Oh, there we go. Most common. That's right there. It wasn't in the snares. 300 points. I knew I saw it somewhere. This means no matter what you have in your army, you can't exceed 300 points for the characters. 2 extra fields have been added to the profile for ease of play. The shield icon can be filled in with your armor score, and the sword icon can show you the average roll you need to hit based on your fizz. So when you build a character, it's best to start with these stats. Characters start with the base set of stats, which is 0 for everything except for con, because that's your hit point cost, and a movement of 4. So your stat cost, increase below describes the point cost for each stat. So Fizz, Dex, and Mind, it's 1 point for every point they have on top of that. So when you get to stat cost of 2, it's 3 points. Stat cost of 3, it's going to be 6 points. And that's the point cost for it. And then you total those together. And for every additional point of constitution, it's 8, 16, 24, 32. It doubles. In this table, you see the direct relationship between the point cost of a stat and its value. So if you set the dex value of a character to 3, it would cost 6 points. A value of 2 only costs 3 points. Constitution has a different value because obviously that's their like the amount to stay alive. It's like a force multiplier. So if I wanted to have a Fizz of 4, I'd be 10. Dex of 3, 16. Con of 2, 24. And then a Mind of 2, 27 points as a model. You just add up all the stat block values and you can create your own character. And then traits. So if you're going to be regular, you're an additional 15 points on top of that. If you're going to be instinctual, you're 10 points. If you're going to be strong, so roll crits on 19s or 20s, you're 2 extra points. You're going to be large, you're +2 weapon strength, but +1 to attack rolls from smaller models when they attack you. And you can add like flying, spellcasting, or huge to increase or decrease those values. And then point cost for equipment, everything you could possibly want in here. Swords, staves, axes, double swords, and even things for taking banners to boost morale. And they all have special properties that are listed afterwards. So lots of crunch in there, like lots of like crunchy like detailing out your characters if you want. It feels very like Rogue Trader, but in a fantasy setting, if that makes sense, or Old Worm or 3rd edition fantasy battle where you can like stat out your characters like that. Miscellaneous equipment like bells, drums, and horns, familiars, ladders and ropes, trinkets, giving like a portable barricade, like throwing down like a wall, like a palisade kind of thing. Basic magic items and potions. So you can basically stick a spell in a magic item, and then the circle of that spell becomes the points per charge for using it in the game. And then brewing potions, different mounts, so things like a horse, a wolf, a drake, a dragon. And then skills and traits. So basic skills, things like duelist. Add a bonus of 1 to melee attack rolls when targeting an enemy that does not have an ally within an inch of it, because you're good at fighting one-on-one. Long shot only affects range attacks. You can increase the range of an attack by 3, sacrificing a point of damage or strength from the attacker's damage. Lucky, when this character's constitution is reduced to 0, roll a d20. On a 15 or higher, your con remains at 1. You may only be used 3 times per character per game. Basically, get out of jail free cards. And there's tons of these, lots of like skills and traits for detailing your characters with. And these are the sample stat blocks. So these are just like pre-generated. If you want to like skip a step and be like, I want to use a dwarf miner. He's going to cost 18 points. He's going to have these stats. So if you don't want to do the math every time, Ryan's put in some like handy, like, you know, skeleton zombies, just to add them out in advance for you. The Cold-Blooded Dominion, mercenaries, like rat folks and bandits. And then embellishments. These are like battlefield embellishments for specific like environmental conditions, or special like scenario rules. Clear skies, fog of war, a rainstorm or null magic. And then all the different spell schools. I love this. And they go up in level basically based on the circle that you make your mage. So aerothurgy, aquamancy, so water, air, arcane, bardic, chronomancy, druidic, geomancy, so like stone, illusions, necromancy for raising the dead. So like whatever kind of character you want to make, you can make out of this for sure. Pyromancy for fire wizards, thaumaturgy for healers, wild magic for like doing like a druidic kind of thing. And then a ton of scenarios. So standard skirmish, different deployments, taking hold, King of the Hill, fortified assault, artifact hunt, ambush, raid, sabotage, rescue, advancing attack. And then a bonus scenario for a bar fight, because why not? Picking random scenarios with a random scenario generator, so doing like additional stuff where this scenario gets the conditions and stuff too. Playing campaigns. Setting up a freeform campaign, playing your first battle and having aftermath, so like player loses the battle if the characters die and stuff like that. Having a damage chart, recruiting and upgrading characters, keeping things balanced over the course of it. And then a quick ref and credits, that's it. So again, no solo and co-op stuff, but you could very easily like write scenarios with that in mind, right? Having like a little AI. So there's no AI in here, but you can literally, like if you've got like a Reaper Bones Kickstarter, a bunch of D&D models lying around, or you're like me and you have tons of old miniature games that you don't play anymore and you'd like to like put them back to life, I could see me and Jay or me and Christian digging through some boxes of old Warhammer stuff or old like RPG minis and playing a little campaign of this, like a linked narrative campaign with Anthems of War. I like it because it's Canadian. I like it because it does exactly what it says in the tin and is designed to like get your models that you don't play with anymore on the table or let you just like imagine a fantasy scenario. And I love the fact that it's got some Infinity kind of like feel to it with the acts and reacts, the order generation, order pool, and then I can just make my own characters. So it doesn't matter what miniatures I own, I can make a game out of this. And I love when people just write a game because they feel like they want to write a game. So good job, Ryan. I'm excited to give this a shot. You'll see Let's Play coming up in the future. And of course, I have to decide. Tell me in the comments, what should I do? Should I do confrontation? Should I bring back like some like of the Reaper stuff that I haven't painted through yet? I kind of want to save that for like a different game. What game should I resurrect cool fantasy models? I'm very like leaning, because this has like kind of a 3rd edition 40 or not 40K Warhammer Fantasy feel, or like a Warhammer Fantasy roleplay kind of feel to it almost. I'm kind of leaning towards that. And then having lots of models to do like a warband skirmish would be easy to do. I'm kind of leaning towards that. I don't know. We'll see. Tell me in the comments what you think, but I'm excited about this. And if you're looking for an indie game to put your fantasy collection to life that uses D20s, is kind of non-conventional, Anthems of War looks cool. So look forward to Let's Play in the future. And big thanks for Ryan. Give me all this stuff at HowlCon. It was great to meet you, and we'll hopefully get to see the game on the channel soon. Big thanks for watching. Textile Nash. Have a good day. Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.